And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. It's a snack pack, everyone. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here for the Lakers Fast Break Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts, inside sports, fantasy football, all those great places that we are. Please go ahead, like and subscribe. The Super BS Gamescast I appear on as well, so go ahead and check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Also, as well, of course, Mark is here as well. And if you're a member, you got to check out his first article. It's a killer article. You got to go ahead and check it out. But you got, in order to do that right now, go ahead and become a member today for just $2.99 a month. I will probably release it later on to the mass audience, but the in crowd will have already seen it. So if you want to see what he's talking about in regards to the Australian basketball scene, go ahead and check it out today, right there for you for just $2.99 a month, indeed. But also, as well, of course, go ahead and check out what Joe Sorrell's doing. He's not going to be on the show tonight, so no Joe. I know a lot of people will be bummed about that, but he is going to probably be back for tomorrow's game. So looking forward to him being there tomorrow. And of course, everybody as well, and the whole gang, of course, right there for you at the Lakers Fast Break. But it is, of course, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for joining us. Thought we'd throw in a little snack pack with some of the things that JJ said in practice earlier today. Want to also go ahead and touch on the big game earlier this evening between Cleveland and OKC as well. So, Mark, what's going on, my friend?
Nah, mate. Thanks so much for inviting me on the show today, or always being open to having me on. And the great man is here, which is even better.
I'm not going to be here. I can't make it. There
he
you
had
go.
a one-word answer. I wasn't going to bother him after that, but great to see you, Joe. I'll just go really quickly, but yeah, Friday afternoon here, about 4:00. So I've finished work for the week. So, man, absolute dream world right now for me. So I'll just be chilling out and having a chat to you boys about the Lakers, which is my favorite thing to do. So can't complain, Gerald, and we'll come off the back of a win too. So I'll take it. But yeah, JJ's made some interesting comments, which we'll go through,
Yes.
which is good. How are you, Joe?
Is already.
Sorry.
No way. I was going to say Intel Wild is already out on JJ. So not quite as fast as Doobie was on Ham. But
interesting.
Yes, Intel says, can we get another coach?
Intel doesn't muck around.
Well, they're already paying for two, Intel, so maybe they'll get a discount bulk rate if they go ahead and get another so they can pay for three. But also here today as well is, of course, Joe Sorrell. Go ahead and support his game, Corrupt, COREUPT on Steam. Of course, his Synblades, synblades.y.com. Joe, I'm going to go ahead and hit markup on this in a second. JJ's comments during practice today, not eye-openers per se, but kind of mildly interesting. The fact that he now is going to focus on a more too big, as far as type of deal with more too big lineups that they're going to throw out there at teams. I know this is something that we periodically have asked for from time to time. And they've shied away from it, opting for a lot of, ineffective lineups with either Jackson Hayes as our backup center, Koloko as our backup center, or Rui Hashimura as our backup center at times, which has really been ugly. Trey Jamison was signed, and he, basically paraphrasing him, said that the signing coincided with this move towards that as far as more two big lineups. Any thoughts on that as far as helping the defense and rebounding a too big lineup could do?
No, neither will help. You can't just get a big from the scrap heap and all of a sudden decide that now you have a player that's going to be able to rebound for you. If a big who's lounging around, not being picked up by anyone, could rebound, he would have been picked up. So I don't see this as anything other than throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks. Because they do know that the small lineups aren't going to work. There's just not enough athleticism on the perimeter for small ball to work, and there's really no small ball center that can play consistently. LeBron May have been able to do that 5 years ago. He can't do that now. Rui's definitely not that guy, and there's really no one else that's 6'8" that could, I'd say, go maybe one-on-one in the post against a big. There's just no one. It's just not in the cards at that point.
Mark, do you have anything in difference to that, or do you
Well,
essentially
no.
agree with what Joe had to say on a too big lineup
Yeah.
used more often?
Yeah, it's sort of my analysis of it. I don't know the player as well as what Joe would, but sort of seeing highlights of him just since we, discussed that this was going to be a topic. I've watched a few highlights, and I don't know, man. He doesn't look that good anyway. And it's like Joe says, bigs are at an absolute premium in this league. If you're any good, you'd already be signed up. So what are we expecting? A miracle to walk through the door? I hope so, but I'm on the same page. And yeah, I just think that we're sort of forced into the not forced, but we've made this move because our bigs are always injured, and they're just. I mean, Vander, what a signing that's been, and then Christian Wood, where's that guy? Is he ever coming back? It doesn't appear so. So, and Hayes is just average. So, it'll add something to the team and the depth, but it's not going to change the needle. We know that, and yeah, I don't know. It's not that good. Put it that way. It's not. It's not a game change. So I agree with Joe entirely.
Doesn't it always make you curious why a 10-win New Orleans team that actually needs depth at the center position waives a 6'10", 6'11", 250, 200 to 270 pound player off their roster? Mark, doesn't it make you curious when that's
Yeah,
exactly
it's
the type of player that they need in their lineup?
yeah, and you can understand if teams are tanking like Brooklyn, and you might say New Orleans is to a certain degree, but I just think they're terrible. And the way they run's pretty farcical at times from what we've seen. So nah, it's a worry. The only other scenario that worries me more is if we trade with Miami because we seem to get spuds from them all the time. But this trade, it's not going to make us title favorites, put it that way. I do hope in a sense that it might give AD a little bit of respite where he gets some sort of attitude that he actually can dominate because he's getting a minute more of rest. But I don't know. I don't know. I can see this guy coming into the team not even playing.
Or
To be
getting
quite
the same
frank, he will
results?
play initially and then JJ will go off him. So
Or
yeah,
getting
not too sure.
or getting the same kind of results you've gotten so far from Coloco, which is next to
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
That's
good point.
probably where I see it right now as well.
True.
But Joe, um, again, like you said, they're grasping at straws instead of filling out the bigger picture. I don't know if they could have engineered some sort of trade. Richards, again, I'm still at a loss why you would trade Richards, who is on a $5 million contract for what seemingly on the surface looks like a very sufficient backup big, may be able to spot starter. He actually did play well as a starter earlier this season when Mike Williams was out of the lineup. So it's curious that Phoenix was able to get a player like that at a distant couple seconds later on the next decade, and then one sooner is essentially what they got him for. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I didn't know that Charlotte was really that inept of a front office that you could steal it from them. But again, I guess their record speaks for itself, which means the Lakers missed out on another possible prospect that is playing in the NBA.
Well, it's how do you pronounce his name? Josh Okogie?
Josh Okogie,
Okogie,
but it's
right?
also, as Eric says,
Maybe.
they saved $20 million off their salary tax. Just to
So
let you know
you
as
just
well.
got your reason. You answered your own question, and they got an additional 2 second-round picks because I think Phoenix sent
No,
3.
Phoenix sent out 3, and Charlotte sent them 1.
Did you hear what it didn't? Isn't that 2? That's 2. Yeah, they got up 2 more second-round picks. Exactly. They -1 equals 2. Got it? We good here? Or are you going to just repeat everything I'm saying here?
Continue.
Thank you. I don't really care what Charlotte does. Nick Richards is a nice player, but yeah, okay. Good luck, Phoenix. Valanciunas, Robert Williams. Apparently, there's some noise out there saying that they will warrant second-round picks. So it looks like Washington has come to grips that they're not going to be getting their first. However, there might be someone desperate by the time the deadline comes where they might throw a protected first to him. The likelihood of the Lakers getting at least one more guy is very, very high. And they would probably need to get an additional second round pick. I think it would take 3 to get a Valanciunas. Robert Williams, I would touch with a 400-foot pole, because the second that guy comes to the Lakers, he'll be sitting next to Christian Wood and Dolt that everybody loves to cream over, which is Jared Vanderbilt. I don't want any injury-plagued players on this team anymore. I wish the league would change that in the CBA, that if you're injured for more than half the year, you should be able to get dropped and the salary should be able to get absorbed, but they'll never do that. These guys have wasted nothing but time, and the moron that runs the general managing position decided to give one of those idiots a contract extension. So here we are making fun of the Charlotte Hornets when you really have had pretty much the same kind of management by the idiot in our office, doing pretty much things that don't make any sense either. I'm also been thinking about, now that second round picks seem to be the popular thing. And again, I'm not involved in the day-to-day in the NBA, folks. I'm just an observer. I don't really know what's going on, but it seems like people are getting their jollies off of second round picks. Why did Pelinka send 3 second round picks to get Shake and DFS? Did he really need to send 3? He was sending them an expiring contract. Couldn't they have gotten away with it with 2, maybe? Because
Possibly.
that could
Depends
be
on the 2.
Because now, can you? I haven't read this part of the CBA. Can you buy a second round pick like they used to?
No one's. That I'm not sure of.
We got to find
like
that
the
out.
Lakers did. Like the Lakers did essentially not too long ago. So I could see what you're saying that there. But I know that what Charlotte is doing with those late 2 second round draft picks at the back end, they're basically gambling that Jokic and Booker will be far gone from their teams by then. So that's what they're banking on. So, yeah. By the way, Mark, if you want to see any Facebook comments, you do have to open up another tab on the Lakers fast break. Yeah.
No worries.
The only other way to see it is through
Yeah, I can
and
see it
you
like
Twitter.
in our talk thing. That's why I replied to
Yeah.
him on YouTube, but he's on Facebook,
Yeah.
so it didn't work
Yeah.
out. All good.
As a guest, you have to go ahead, as a guest panelist, you have to go ahead and actually open up a tab for Facebook there. So M24, thank you so much. I guess what's up, Intel? There you go. I appreciate the very kind gesture and the super chat there. Again, Mark, some other things that were said in today's practice earlier today by JJ was about Austin Reeves. So much of a divisive figure lately. Highs, lows with him. And
Definitely.
for stretches, according to JJ, he has played at an all-star level. And
well,
let me finish what he
keep
said.
going.
As Reeves' role has grown, his coach is imploring him not to get out of character, according to Dave McMenamin, and try to do more what's being asked of him, even if the game isn't going in the Lakers' direction. What are your thoughts on what JJ said earlier today in regards to Austin Reeves?
Well, I mean, it's a big call. Like, the game where he had 16 assists, maybe that in isolation is an all-star type performance, but definitely not overall. Has he ever been at an all-star level? But he's been at a really, really solid level. And the concern here is that we've put a lot of reliance now on AR, and I didn't sort of see it as well as some of the other guys, like Joe and John, in terms of he's not really, and certainly Lakers all day called it out very early that this guy can't really be your primary ball handler, and he's sort of after a few games of playing well, he's gone backwards, then it will come forwards and then go backwards. So um, look, JJ is gonna. Like honestly, I'll be brutally honest. Intel doesn't obviously like him, but I'm loving everything JJ is doing. He hates him obviously. He wants him gone, but I'm not saying love might be a strong word, but when you factor in rookie coach, the squad that he's got, the sideshow with Bronny, LeBron, now, to a lesser degree, obviously what he might be going through personally there, that won't affect the basketball side of things. I'm certain of that. But I'm loving what I've seen from JJ, and just the after press conferences, the way he talks, like that one game where we played really poorly, whether I think it was the Detroit game, and he came out, man, and he was heartbroken because you could tell he told them exactly how to play and they played the exact opposite. And it was like that during the 3 game stretch. So you can only communicate, the message to the players. These guys are on massive money. Like at the end of the day, they've got to want it as well. And last game we did play well. We came certainly in the second half we played well. But for me, I don't know what people want out of JJ or want out of the Lakers head coach. And what is the answer? To get rid of him and get someone else and to start the cycle again? It's not the answer right now. I'd love to see JJ get through this period of LeBron and AD and see those guys out of the club and see what happens next with the squad that maybe is more tailored to his coaching or he's got influence on. Obviously, there's got to be results along the way, and we can't bottom out. But we haven't done that. We've been competitive at times without being great. And as someone that saw something similar with like basically Barcelona Football Club, they brought in one of our greatest ever players a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, to train the club called Xavi Hernandez, and he was a rookie coach, and they didn't treat him right, and now he's not the coach of a club of that club, despite being one of our greatest ever players. So I'd hate for all this sort of pressure to be put on JJ when there's other guys that need to be accountable, like LeBron and like AD. So obviously want to call out JJ's in-game issues and all that kind of stuff. But overall, I'm happy with him, and that's just my opinion. And I'd love to see him there for a while, pending results and obviously the future. But I'm not as savage as Intel. I like the guy, and I don't really know why Laker fans would be calling for his head, despite some of the comments that he might say about Reeves and that. What else is he going to say? Is he going to say Reeves is shit? Like, he's not going to say that. Or Reeves can't handle the point. He's not going to say that in a press conference. He's going to be positive. That's it.
I'll just say this, Mark, and I'll bring it over to Joe when it comes. And thank you again, M24, for your kindness. It is truly appreciated.
Man. Great super chat.
Maybe talking a little smack to Intel as well.
Challenge
But
that.
I will say this, though, Joe, and I bring it back to you. I said that you're going to have some bumps in the road. Before the season, we talked about how this team, roster-wise, looked like a lower end of the Western Conference team. So should not be surprising to any of you guys out there what we think or how we talk about this team, because they're probably in line of where we're at. In fact, they're playing a little bit above our expectations right now at 6th place in the Western Conference. So that's even better than what we thought they were doing. But with JJ, and I think Magic brought up the other day that they've had the most 20-point plus losses so far this season, although the way the Clippers are playing and they're terrorizing through opponents, that may change as far as for those other teams. But when it comes right down to it, Joe, again, JJ is just, you're going through the bumps in the road. And he does get out coached on a couple games here or there. But overall, this team still has a positive record. It's playing above the level we expected him at. And whatever he says about Austin Reeves for stretches playing at an all-star level, he's just trying to pump up his player to do even better.
Is that what he said?
Yes, all-star level for stretches at times this season.
Okay.
That is a direct quote.
Those kind of expectations or those kind of comments are only going to make you look more foolish. Austin Reeves has never played like an all-star, and he never likely will. Doesn't matter if he drops. Dalton Connect dropped 30 earlier this year. Is he now an all-star? I saw Lonzo Ball drop 30 when he couldn't shoot. Does that make him an all-star? I think we've set the bar low at this point, and that's been kind of festering a lot this last few years. Anyways, people coin and comment on things that aren't really true, calling certain people great, legends, icons. Folks, if you're going to call someone like Gilbert Arenas great, then you've lost all touch of reality on what the word great means.
He'll call himself great for you.
You've diluted that word. You've diluted anything that's attached to it. Even those who are great. The great is not. It's set for very few people. Great and iconic. Iconic. What is iconic? Iconic is someone who transcends the sport. That's icon. And unless you're there, I don't see any point in using words like that. As far as Austin Reeves is concerned, he's playing out of position pretty much half the game anyways. So if you want to go ahead and lambaste him because he's not doing that job well, then I'm sorry, you're not really good at observing basketball. And I hope you're not going around talking to people who know less basketball than you, acting like you know basketball, which we all know that's what most people do. Austin Reeves can handle the ball in spurts, in rest times, if need be. However, he has to be very calculated, and so does JJ Redick, in when to do that. Because there's going to be times where he can't do that at all in a 48-minute game, and that's usually against elite athletes. Athletes that can, how do I put this so people can understand? If the guy in front of them can guard a zone because he can get back in time. So let me put a scenario here for you all. Let's say someone is at the block, and at this particular time, they're doing a traditional, we're going to throw it down to the block and see what the center does. There are players that can double there and get back in time should the center throw the ball back to, let's say, Austin Reeves in this situation. What do you do then? Now the gap is closed. Now you don't really have any advantage over that player. If Austin Reeves had John Morant type athleticism, or let's just say maybe a level below, because John Morant is a freak, you're going to be able to take advantage of that possession. Either you get to the basket, center throws it while you're diving, or you can have a fast enough release where he has no chance at getting in front of you and maybe blocking the shot. So this game is about inches, guys. Believe it or not, football gets that moniker, but basketball is about inches. And that's what happens when you have the greatest athletes in the greatest league of a sport, is every little detail counts. Every little detail counts. All those issues that they have inbounding the ball. When you don't register something in a half a second, that could mean a turnover, that could be a bad lob, that could be a bad bounce pass, whatever it is. It matters. And Austin Reeves does not have the athleticism playing in 2025 against athletes. I'd say probably at the very least 40% of the athletes that play his position are going to run him out the gym athletically. So how is he going to combat that? He can't just keep bouncing the ball around his back and getting around them. He can maybe do it once in a while, sure. But that's going to take up a lot of energy if he's doing it all the time. And then all of a sudden he starts throwing turnovers, and all of a sudden he's getting picked. It's just not going to work. It's got to be in spots. It's got to be in spurts. But the Lakers don't have enough talent to go another route. They got to play with what they can play with. So JJ Redick, the Lakers. What is this? The third center now? The third center experiment. Let's see if we can go back to a couple other bigs and see if it can add some value here. Because when we have the bigs in there, at least we have a chance at taking advantage of maybe size. I don't know about that. I guess it's the last resort at this point. But with that, folks, I have to jettison myself here for again. Thank you for having me, and I will see you guys.
I'd love
tomorrow.
to see like a button that you could put like ejector chair when you say.
Well, I'll do my best to go with what I have.
No. YouTube gave the world's fastest ban on your short this morning
for the music.
Yeah, I sent you the email.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I don't know.
Got it almost 150 views on it within about 10 minutes, and then right there.
I don't know what these jokesters want. I see all this music everywhere. People jerking off and playing their music, and they're still those songs are still there. Like, what do I have to jerk off and play this music for them to keep it? I'm not gonna do it. But the point is, what is this? We're doing a show here. We're not making any money doing this from this short. So what exactly do we need to do for the Googles to be happy?
Yeah. They pick and choose what makes them happy.
Yeah, they pick and choose. Here, you can pick this. How about that? All right, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks for jumping on. See you soon, Joe.
We'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully, if all goes
sure.
well. Because tomorrow is, of course, the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think we'll be winning by 60, but it should be
Fingers crossed.
an easy win, yes, for a team that's tanking, unless the D'Lo revenge game happens. But we'll wait and see. That is tomorrow. Playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break, along with, of course, the best post game that's out there right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But before we head on out, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and touch on today's big game between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers, my friend. I know that they're right now, records-wise, they're the two best that are out there. Your perceptions on when we're on today. I know that I think Sean and I were talking. I don't know. I knew you were modding the chat. At the time.
Well, I was getting amongst it.
But you weren't the primary instigator. There was someone else that was like adamant on, there's no way SGA is an MVP candidate, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Drops 40 today in a primetime game on national television and against the team with the best record in the NBA. Kind of looks good to a lot of people out there right now, doesn't it, Mark?
It does, but I'll premise that I was one of those people. Not to say that he's not an MVP caliber player, but I don't think he's the MVP, was my position. Sounds like the other person was a bit more savage on him. But you got to look at it a few ways, today's result. You've got a Cleveland team that's only lost 5 games. Like, you're going to lose some games. You're playing the best team in the West at home. Like, you can look at it a few ways. It's like, okay, you can maybe, from Cleveland's perspective, sort of move on from that loss and think about the good times that you had and put it to the back of your brain and move forward quite easily. They could go on a 15-20 win game streak, or they could go the other way and start losing games. From OKC's perspective, they had to give them payback. They didn't play well when they played them in Cleveland. I know people thought that game was close, but I personally watched that game, and I didn't think it was super close. So it was sort of a bit of a payback game, but then underlying that is when you actually look at the score, and they were getting absolutely smashed, Cleveland. Like the last quarter, Cleveland's won it by 20 points. So if you take away those 20 points, you're looking at a 40-odd point loss, which is completely out of character for the way Cleveland's been playing. And does that mean there's an underlying issue with them? I'm not certain, because OKC is a great team and they're going to do that. If you don't turn up and play in OKC, you're going to get absolutely smashed. So that in isolation, I don't know what you can make of it. OKC, a very good team, Gerald. But let's focus now on SGA. He's had a great night, okay? He can have these great nights. But I also think he's got to prove it just a little bit more. His playoff record is very poor. Okay, maybe he hasn't been there that often, but last year when they got there, they were favorites against, was it Minnesota or Dallas? They lost to Dallas, I think. They were favorites against Dallas in terms of their record. And my boy Giddy was the scapegoat, because apparently he can't defend, but he wasn't playing. So, I mean, if the guy's not playing, how can he be the scapegoat? So, for me, SGA in the biggest moments hasn't proven it. Today was a big moment, did prove it. Olympics didn't prove it. Last year hasn't proven it in big moments. So, a player like that can be an absolute baller during the regular season, but and I know he's a special player, and people are going to think it's insane what's being said here, but I still think he's got a bit to prove, and I don't see what other people see in SGA. I still think he's got weaknesses to his game, and when he gets really locked down, he can get locked down because he doesn't have the ability to shoot the three at the highest level. Now, when he wants to, it's okay. For sure, it's okay. And the perimeter game inside the 3-point line is obviously as strong as it gets in the league. But he's still got to prove it. That's where I'm coming from, Gerald. And you know, you're going to give SGA an MVP, but then you look back at a couple of seasons that Jason Tatum's had. What's going on there? Like, that guy's been as elite at times, but he's not this year. He's tailed off a little bit, but Tatum never gets spoken in the same breath as an SGA. I don't know, I'm not saying he should because he's a Celtics player. Like, we're not going to go there, but I still think SGA, he just has to prove it a bit more to me, Gerald, because he also doesn't explode for 50-point games or 60-point games. Now, quote me if I'm wrong. I'd need to look it up, but I don't think he would have got a 50-point game before. And like ballers do, the Luka has, certainly KD has, Steph has, Anthony Edwards has, Devin Booker has. SGA is obviously at their level, but I still think he's got limitations. I don't know why. It's just the way I look at the game.
His career high is 45.
That's my
According
point.
to-
Yeah, so I'm not
He
saying
got
that you have
40
to have
tonight.
Yeah, he did, and against a good team. So I'm not guys, SGA is right up there in terms of being one of the best players in the league. But if you're telling me that he's the MVP, I'm not going to agree. And if you're going to tell me that this dude's an absolute, all-time player, I'm still waiting. If it happens and he wins a chip and things like that, I'll say it. I'll be the first to say it. But he's not at that level yet, and he's got to prove it still. He wants to
Okay.
prove it, I'm sure.
I'll just say, I'm not a strong defense. I'll just say in defense him because he was my pick this year for MVP. If you remember, go back to our predictions. And the reason why I just thought is, again, because I thought OKC was going to have this gaudy record. I did not think Cleveland was going to have their gaudy record, but I knew OKC was going to have this kind of success this season. I didn't expect they have the senior center injuries that they did, but despite all that, they throw out small lineups and they're very successful with it because the way they play defense. He is not their best defensive player by a long shot, but he is their best offensive player. And in a game where you needed him the most today, he did it for them. He did it in the prime time. He did it in national television. These are the kind of games that are going to get him the most pub and to put him at the top of many of these press lists as far as the MVP ahead of Jokic. When it comes to SGA and how you evaluate him, I get it. I understand it. There's always some pushback on it, and he's not been at that level as long as some of the other players that you're thinking of. But right now, you can't argue with success. I can't argue with success. And, unlike Cleveland, where it's more like it is Mitchell, but there's still three other guys that are like really playing at a high level starters for them. They could essentially have four all-stars. When it's Tatum this year, Boston's just bored. Boston looks like to me they're bored. They're just meandering through, doing what we were familiar with the Lakers when they were at the three-peats, where they just meander through the regular season. But the MVP is based off the regular season. I can't go off of what has been done in the playoffs. I know subliminally these press do look at the playoffs as a barometer of success, whether or not they should deserve or not deserve the MVP. And no, he hasn't proven it yet, and I get that, I understand it. But if you're basing it off of the regular season, because the MVP is a regular season award, still maybe someday down the road they'll make it for the entire season. Right now, I would still have to go with SGA as my MVP, slightly over of Jokic, although that gap is, it's close, because Jokic, if everybody's noticing out there, outside of the loss that they had when he wasn't, I guess he didn't play in the game, but the games that he's in, as of late, he's been proven to be very good for his team.
Joke has been unreal. And Gerald,
and on top of that, I wanted to say this. Mayu's been asking us about our thoughts on
about Denver.
Because JJ said that he feels that they could be very competitive, according to what Mayu said. That supposedly he said that. I know Joe has Denver as his finals team, so that already answers his question for Joe. For me, I think it starts and stops with Jokic. The Lakers just don't have an answer for him, and haven't had it for 2 series now. So I still say it's probably right where it is with the Lakers, like a 4 games to 1 or 3, something like that. Something really easy for Denver to move on in the series. I don't see the Lakers as being at that level that they are yet. Your thoughts on this, Jokic, Denver whole scenario as well?
Yeah, we'll just quickly, we won't go sort of the same path as John went yesterday, but Dwight Smith seems to have an issue with either yourself or me. And like we told Black yesterday, calm down. And if you've got any problems, just leave. Like you don't need to abuse people that come on the show and spend their own time on the show. So calm down, Dwight. It's all good, bro. But if you want to be here, we want you here, okay? But other than that, but yeah, Denver.
Who's he mad at? Who's he said is?
I don't know. And he had another comment that we had to filter out before, which was even worse, to be honest. So let's move on from him. Because we seem to get a few trolls come into the chat when we have absolutely great people like 805, JD, Mayu, Gustavo, Ali, and
hold
the
on.
rest of
Let me just say, I'll just say I am this guy talking SGA, and if he does win the award and the OKC has the best record, you'll be looking very stupid. And obviously, the way you're talking in the chat is very stupid, just representing who you are. Now, if you cannot have a disagreement with somebody and say it in a respectful manner, then again, you are all in your rights to go ahead and leave. But if you want to stay and have a different opinion in a respectful fashion, by all means. But right now, SGA, just seeing how the press evaluates SGA this so far, it's a tight race between SGA and Jokic. And right now, there's no one else, Mark.
Yeah, and look, I'll touch on that, and I'll touch on Denver as well. For me, I agree. I disagree with you, Gerald. For me, Jokic is the best player in basketball.
I'm not saying who's the best player in basketball.
No, and sorry. And to expand on the point, I also believe he's the best player this season.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying Jokic is the best player of this decade. It's not even close. I'm not even going to argue with that. I mean, the multiple time MVPs, you can't argue with that. But yeah, he is going to lead like that. That's correct, Joe. But yeah, I'm not saying he's a SGA.
No. Look, I'll expand on my point. Yeah. No, but I'll also back up my point, Gerald. And that I also believe that Joker's had the best season. The guy's
Uh-huh.
leading threes. I mean, to have a dude that's that big that, wasn't well known for his 3-point shot or might have been his biggest weakness, to now
Mhm.
be leading the 3-point percentage. What's the guy doing in the off season, man? Like, people tell me he's like training horses and that. This guy was working on his shot. This guy train Ben Simmons? Like, I mean, what an improvement in your shot. And I watch him now, and it almost feels like every time he's going to shoot, it's going in, which I just didn't feel like that with him from the three. So to bring that element to your game and add it to everything else you've got, I don't know. We'd have to break down the numbers quite seriously, obviously, Gerald, and then you've got underlying that is their winning record or their, the team's record overall. But I'm certain, obviously, Joker's leading in a lot more statistics than SGA, which,
Oh, and I'm not saying I disagree with you on that at all. And if the
yeah,
closer they get to second place in the Western Conference, the more it'll go back to Jokic being, right there, as
yeah,
the number one MVP candidate. But I know there's fatigue with some of these voters that keep on voting for Jokic again and again and again. And I know that someone will look for a different way. And right now, seeing SGA as the top player on the team with the best record in the NBA, or one of the best records in the NBA, with all due apologies to Cleveland, it just goes without saying that sometimes the way these voters vote is
yeah,
just by the perception how it looks. So I think right now it's a very close race between both those individuals. But if the Nuggets
that's the
keep
point.
rising up in the standing, Jokic, you know, with his video game like numbers, and if he continues to shoot 47% from three, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, Joker's the kind of person that you might initially find him a bit polarizing if you watch him, but give it 10, 15 minutes and the way he plays the game and introduces his other players to the game, it's all time elite. And look, I just have to break it down. If the NBA season stopped today and I had a choice between who's MVP, it's Joker, and for you it's SGA, which is fine, and that's great, and that's why we have this show, and it's not an echo chamber, Dwight, and we can have chats and disagreements and conversations, and that's where we roll. So, yeah, let's see what happens. There's a long way to go still in the regular season, but man, I mean, hey, if you told me LeBron for SGA, I shouldn't probably say go down that path, but maybe AD for SGA. Yeah, I'm in because I don't want to bring all the LeBron fans out. So SGA is an absolute baller, but as I say, I'm a bit harder than most on him, and I still want to see a bit more. But Denver, let's get back to Denver, and I think Joe's the one that always makes really great points about Denver. Man, we don't want to face them in the NBA Finals. Like, if we can avoid them because someone else knocks them out, that'd be fantastic because they are a bit of a bogey team for us. Whether it be Malone, who I hate, but his ability to coach against us and get the players up against the Lakers. Joker absolutely eats, AD typically. AD might still get some good numbers, but on the flip side, Joker's getting anything he wants all the time. You got Murray the other day that, I mean, when you can score 37 and a half, yeah, like people have been getting on Murray, say he's been playing on, not that well, bring
But
Russ into
as
the
Mayu
starting
said,
lineups.
he just dropped 45 after he's been like terrible all season long. Oh,
Yeah,
by the way, he just dropped 45 on the other day.
and that
So
was
now
37 and a half.
yeah,
He was chilling the second because they were smashing them. So that
and
guy's a
Gordon's just
special
coming
player.
back for them. Yeah.
Gordon, you've got, Porter Jr. that can light up in a moment's notice and always does against bloody LA. So, like, they're a deep team, good team. Oh, well, they're not super deep, sorry, as they were in their title run, but they're a great side. So, Mayu, man, that if you gave me a choice out of any team to avoid, it would be them and then a fully fit OKC squad, obviously, that has Chet and Hardenstein and all the boys there. But Denver's right up there, man, and they know it. When you got the best player in basketball, you're a chance. Unfortunately, that was LeBron 10 years ago when he took Cleveland teams to where they should never have been. Jokic is the best player in basketball now, so he's going to give you a chance, and we'll see what happens. But maybe that's a great question. But yeah, Denver for me is always going to be the number one threat in the West until Joker's not there. For us anyway, the way they play against us and the way they seem to have our a bit of a mental edge over us with our current players and our boy LeBron. I mean, that sweep still hurts, man. Someone called it a close sweep or something. I think it was Chris Broussard, and that doesn't make it better, Chris. It makes it
No,
possibly
they
even
like to call
worse.
it the most competitive sweep in
Yeah,
NBA
yeah.
history. Yeah, and then of course we followed up with it with another series where we played close, had a 20-point lead at one time on them, didn't get the job done, only won one game from them. So it's just hard for me, Mayu, to go ahead and believe that the Lakers, as they are constructed right now, would do any better, even with a different coach, than what we're seeing for the past two seasons from them against a Denver team. So that's probably the team I would fear the most. Again, with SGA, has he or is he going to be able to take it up to the next level in the playoffs? We'll have to wait and see because that is, as Xbox so astutely said, it's not been proven as of yet that he can take them to a conference or a NBA Finals level as of yet. But that season could be now. That season might be now. That season, for all intents and purposes, should be now. The way that they're playing so far this season. So, and as far as a defender, yeah, he averages 2 steals a game, which is one of the highest in the league. I get that. Their team is predicated off of turning the ball over. Turning the ball over because of their defense, the pressure that they provide a lot. That's what their defense is predicated on. But also, you got to remember, he is probably because he's so predicated on offense and he is so much he's so vital to their offensive plan. Xbox, as a defender, he's probably their fifth or sixth best defender on that team. If you're talking about, because there's just so many guys coming off that bench or in that starting lineup that their sole mission is to lock you down.
Were you talking about Chet just then? Sorry, I missed
No, it's
the.
talking about SGA, because
Yeah,
SGA,
yeah. I mean, yeah. Look, you don't want SGA to be your best defender when you need him to contribute as much as he does on the offensive end. And man, honestly, like, yeah, I'll give OKC their dues. The way they defend is unreal. Like, and when you're that young, man, and hungry, they've bought into the system. I'll say this though, the other team that we're sort of overlooking for whatever reason is Memphis, man. Memphis are playing really well,
no, I didn't
and
say he's the seventh best defender, 805. I said fifth best defender. Fifth best defender. Let's not
so
add numbers to what I said. I said
didn't.
clearly said fifth best defender right now on OKC because he is more focused on the offensive end.
Well, it's
They'll
give or
even
take
tell you.
a couple of bodies. But
Yeah, they'll even
yeah,
tell you in OKC that he's not their best defender. He is a good defender.
yeah, he's good.
I'm
He's
not
very good. Yeah,
Yeah, on the
but
best
they've got
defensive
four
team in
great ones in front
basketball.
of him, which
Yeah.
we can rattle their names off. If put it this way, 805, SGA might be the second or third best defender in another team. So,
But you were comparing
um,
him to Kobe at 805, and I'm like saying,
Curdy,
I don't
my
want to
man.
go there yet. He needs a much more established history and timeline of success before you would want to put on pressure on there. But Case and Wallace, Dort, Jalen Williams, those guys are Caruso. Those guys
Man,
are premier
Hardenstein.
defenders. Yeah. Hardenstein as a rebounder. Yeah.
Yeah,
Those guys
man,
are
big man.
there for their defense. So, yeah, before you even get to SGA as a defender. So, that's in
Yeah.
essence, I don't mean it as a slight to him. It's just the fact that they have so many good defenders on that
You know
team,
who you could say
high
that
level.
same thing about, Gerald? Is to say a Steph Curry. Like Steph Curry for me was a little bit of an underrated defender. The dude was is a decent defender, man. When you can run like he does, he can stay in front of people. But that's the last person you want to be the best defender on your team. You know what I mean? Like the guy it's like a Messi in football. They used to say, why is Messi like he doesn't jog back and defend, or he walks back when Barca loses the ball, because you want your best players that are your best offensive players to concentrate on that. And again, SGA is a great defender. He's just not the best in this particular OKC team. Just want to quickly talk about Memphis, though.
Mhm.
Man, hey, they're playing well. And that Aldama, as the guys know, yes, I am from Spain, but yeah, that's okay. I'll just quickly to White, man. I appreciate what you're saying there. Like, I could be very wrong on SGA, but you got to admit, bro, when you first came in, you abused me and we had to block that comment, and then you went a little bit hard. Other than that, bro, it's fine. We want to hear what you have to say about SGA. I've just got a bit of a different opinion. Like I've said tonight, he's the second or third best player in the league. I compared him to Jason Tatum 2 or 3 seasons ago, when people didn't really talk about Tatum as an MVP but had similar output. You can go back and check all that, and that's true. But okay, maybe they didn't have the winning record, and SGA is a different type of player, and I'll admit that now. That's where we came from.
I'm
And
just going to say this. I would not start my team with SGA. I would start my team with Jokic or Wembanyama first before I went towards a player like SGA or someone else. Those are my top two players right now I'd start a team with. So those are the two players I feel that are going to
great point.
be the best, or in Wembanyama's case, develop into the best player in basketball. So if that's, but
Yeah,
MVP is not always about who is the best player. It's MVP is who is having the best regular season. But there's so many other things, semantics,
yeah,
like Mark said about he hasn't proved in the playoffs. That's in the head of the guys all this stuff is in the head of the guys who vote on it. And some of these guys just don't disassociate one from the other. They'll go ahead and put like, okay, he hasn't made in the playoffs, so I can't vote for him. It's supposed to be a regular season award, the MVP. So when I say I think he's the MVP as of now, I mean he's just having the best regular season, just slightly over Jokic right now, just based off of where their teams are at in the standings. So
yeah.
that's
Good
all.
call.
It's a
And
close
that's
race to me, and I could go either
very
way
close.
here. Yeah, 2-3 weeks from now, it might be something totally different, Mark. But that's what I have.
Yeah. No, no. And look, I just wanted to quickly touch on my boy
Kurt, you
Aldama.
kill me, man.
Kurt, oh, hey, sorry. Sometimes I focus on my point and I sort of forget to interact with the chat as much as I want to. Man, Kurt, what a star, bro. He's the funniest dude. I don't know. He's got to write memes or something. I mean, he comes out with the funniest comments. But thanks for backing me up there on SGA being the Slim Reaper.
I
But
used to know people that used to write jokes for comedians. Mark, I'll
yeah,
just say it. Yeah, if
he's up
Kurt,
there
you
with
have
that
a
kind of.
yeah.
Yeah,
If you ever decide to pursue it, yeah, there's probably some comedians out there that would love
shout
to
out to
hear.
Giddy too.
Get yeah, exactly get your
Nah,
material.
he's a great and he's a great mod. And look, Blood's here too, man. This is such a good chat. So, shout out to the chat. But just quickly, Aldama, man, bruh, being a Spaniard, that dude's not bad. He's going to be sixth man of the year. I hope they don't all of a sudden go, you're in the starting lineup, so they take the award away from him. But Aldama can play, and he's every time I look at his box score now, because my boy Giddy's sort of dropping off a little bit. Giddy's getting numbers that sort of that triple single type numbers, which is a little bit concerning. But yeah, Aldama's playing really, really well. And interesting comment there, and we'll entertain it. Someone said Jar is overrated. Did that comment, was that there moments
Well, they're
ago?
talking about also as
Or
well
JD?
the attempted dunk. I think because
Yeah,
the attempted
it
dunk
didn't
on
count.
Wembyama.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
shared that in our little
yeah,
group chat
yes.
there, and man, I mean, that guy, for his size, to be able to jump that way and elevate, and the way he can slam, because his actual reverse dunk that he did, Vince Carter, I was watching the NBA TNT or whatever. They had Vince Carter, Jalen Rose, and Shaq on there, the midweek sort of show without the big boys. and they went through dunks of the year. And I mean, Vince Carter actually gave dunk of the year to up to this point to that Ja Morant dunk against Boston, where he did the reverse double pump and how he double pump and reverse dunked it, because he said the degree of difficulty was just insane. And if you watch it back, Porzingis is rushing him, so he has to actually change his decision making whilst gathering the ball to go for that kind of dunk. So, there's been as good dunks for me this year. Certainly, Anthony Edwards dunked the other day. If he got that dunk counted against Wemby, it would have been the best dunk of the season. But man, freakish ability. And look, we don't obviously get the same coverage as what you would in Australia as you do in America in terms of these players day in, day out. You've got a lot of accessibility through the internet, but he seems to have, I could be wrong, but he seems to have locked in. I don't know. He might be going to clubs or strip clubs after the game and doing what he was doing in the last year or something. There's a little bit of a change that I can see in Ja. He's always going to be Ja, who ironically is his actual name is Demetrius. So there's probably a reason he changed it to Ja, because it sounds obviously a lot cooler. But man, if he's locked in, Joe said it before. The guy has freakish athletic ability. Like, you actually can't, if you break it, you probably can't really compare him to anyone else in the league. The way, maybe an Anthony Edwards in terms of that freak ability to jump, but Jar's a different player. So, man, not a bad player, Jar. And Memphis for me always has a little bit of. I don't have a second team. I know Joey doesn't like people that have second teams, but Memphis always is going to have a soft spot for me because they drafted Pau Gasol. So I watched him a lot when he was there in the early days, and then obviously Mark went there, my namesake, just with the K, with the C, not a K. But I love my Spanish players, so I really have followed Memphis quite closely, and will be interesting to see if they can be competitive. I don't know what you think about that, Gerald, but you put a fully fit Memphis team against a fully fit OKC team. Man, there's
I'm
some
just going to
players
say
out
this.
there that are pretty damn good.
I still think the Lakers match up very well with Memphis. They've been 5-5 in their
Cool.
last 10, so they're kind of treading water right now. Denver is close, not so slowly creeping up on them. So if they look around, they're going to be at out of third place here if they don't be careful. The Lakers, if they go on a streak, could surpass them as well. The thing is, in a series, I think it's not about Ja, because Ja plays in the moment. I think for the most part really well. I think it's up to Triple J, who's having a really, really good season, and Bane to step up. If
Yeah.
those two players step up, then they have a shot against anyone. But so far, they have not proven to be, uh, at that level just yet. Although there's been limited opportunities because the fact, they after their playoff run 2 seasons ago, they really didn't do well last year because of all the injuries.
No.
So we'll see. We'll see how well
No,
they
they've
do.
got a lot to. That's like similar to my SGA comments before. Sorry to cut you off, Gerald. Jar's got
Oh
a lot
no,
to prove. He's got a lot to prove
I don't think it's
when it
Ja.
counts.
Ja proved it to me in the playoffs. He played with a lot of heart and a lot of determination. It was the other guys who got mixed results, especially Triple J. And I really think
Yeah,
that
true.
he is the key to their success this season.
Yeah, and Baines went hot and cold, and Dylan Brooks. That's certainly that series against us. He he was made to eat dust. So I just mean overall, when you look at these kind of these guys' careers, we're sort of moving into the next run of player, or next run of superstar, someone who can dominate the league, who can win the next chip. Now, Joker's already done it, so he's going to be floating around. But who can take over from your likes of LeBron and Curry, and well, before that, KD when he was with the Warriors? Who is that guy? Is it Ja? Is it SGA? SGA seems to be a bit more of a quiet personality, and he is Canadian. Whether or not that affects his popularity in America. I'm obviously not there. I'm not too sure, but is it Anthony Edwards? Is it? I mean, the boys there in Boston. I don't know what's going on there. Like you said, they've lost a lot of interest, but I also think that people are catching up to the way they play. That sort of the way they shot the three and the way they shoot the three. 70 times a game or whatever the amount is. People can catch up to that. And I feel like there was a bit of a window the previous season and certainly last season. People are a little bit confused on what sort of team they were playing in Boston because you got some ballers there that like guys like Tatum that were, good 3-point shooters, but they're also sort of like mid-range threats, which don't shoot mid-range anymore. It's all threes. And they got in Drew Holiday and, they've got obviously a really strong team. But I don't honestly, if like they're for me right now, they're not the top team in the NBA, and I think they're beatable. I hope they're beatable. We hate them so much. So, um, we'll see. I think there's an element of catching up to them. So, is it Tatum that's gonna, he sort of was grabbing the mantle, but he's dropped it a lot. Devin Booker, he tried, couldn't do it. So, man, someone's got to step. Trey, man. I mean, like for me, I love Trey Young. I'd love to, like, if you gave me one choice out of the players in the NBA to take, obviously there'd be a few like Joker and stuff, but if there was a certain level of player, it'd be Trey, man. Love Trey. So, who's going to step up, guys? Uh, I don't know. It's a big season. Can Jar, can SGA, can someone get over the line and create the next dynasty? We'll see. Not too
We
sure.
will see. We will see indeed. Very good words tonight from Mark, aka Xbox. Truly appreciate it, Dwight. Still here. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, back to
Glad to
what.
see we've settled everything and able to move on. Respect your opinion. Hopefully, you'll try to respect ours as well. And I do truly appreciate you sticking with us. Mayu, about a team in the NBA comparable to the Vikings. It could be Cleveland or OKC at this point in time because both have yet to prove it when it truly matters to get to that next step. Both of them have reached the second round, but both have not yet achieved a conference finals or a finals yet. So, with their current roster makeup. So, we will see. One of those two teams could be the Minnesota Vikings of the NBA, but we'll have to wait and see. But Mark, great conversation. Truly great to have you here. But before we go, did you hear the little tidbit about another basketball league being started up? And one of the people involved is a good friend of one LeBron James in Maverick Carter, being, I guess, either an investor or someone being brought on to, I guess, guide a league that's in development, I guess, abroad, involving, I guess right now, 6 men teams, 6 women teams, I think was what I saw in the article. I don't know how serious this is, how well it will do. Uh, Obviously, it's going to take a considerable amount of funding in order to not only make the league viable, but also to get players to want to jump from the NBA. Your thoughts, though, when I heard the name Maverick Carter, I'm like, huh. I hope he doesn't ask LeBron because LeBron's future goal is to own an NBA team of his own.
Well, look, I mean, hey, if he asks LeBron and takes Bronny, I'll take it every day of the week. Start whatever league you want and take
Bye
Bronny
bye.
where he. Adios, Bronny. Don't come back. But having said that, I think some of the guys in the chat before were saying that Bronny has higher jersey sales than SGA and possibly Jar. So that's the reason he's at the club, guys. And I think Joe's made that point many times, as has Gerald. It's a money thing, and unfortunately, the dude is bringing in the coin. But this new basketball league, look, Gerald, for us, I've
We'll
said this
see.
to you guys personally, yeah. But the reason this new basketball league is coming about and is getting talked about is because of the negativity around the league. Like, remember a couple weeks ago, the coverage was, for me, Gerald, was insane about how bad the ratings were in the NBA. I mean, like, if you actually look at it, I think the Lakers Golden State game on Christmas Day was the
That did
highest rated, yeah, in a long time.
5 years plus, I think.
Yeah,
It earned an average of 6 million viewers, 7 million at its peak. So yes,
yes. So like, people are correlating the play of the game, the three pointers, which people of my age, our age, Gerald, 40 years, 50-year-old people, didn't grow up seeing that type of game. So the adjustment hasn't been easy. But man, I've got nephews that are 10. My nephew's 10 and he goes for the Lakers because of me. My nephew's 13, who I love, goes for the Warriors. Don't know what happened there, but they don't know any different.
do you
They
walk
love
up to him,
the
pat him on the shoulder, say, "That's okay. Everybody makes
That's-
mistakes."
yes, right. No one's perfect, is what I always say. Messi is Argentinian. He's not Spanish. No one's perfect. Rafa Nadal, great Spaniard, goes for Real Madrid. Not perfect. There's always an issue with someone somewhere. But it sort of just back on that. So yeah, I got a little bit sidetracked with my point there. I started talking about Barcelona. What was I saying, Gerald?
This is again, it's regarding about just about where the league is going, and the fact that that this Maverick Carter deal,
Yeah, so sorry to
like an
get so
805,
sidetracked.
805 is not, and he has a valid point. This league could be something with the right amount of funding.
Eh,
Let's say, let's say
Yeah,
The Saudis get involved with that with their huge cash,
yes.
whatever they've got as far as what they do, as far as
That's
finances are concerned, oil, whatever you want to say. However, they're funding it. These other leagues, they Live is still viable even to this day. We thought Live was going to die a massive death next to the PGA, but you see that's kind of worked out for both those leagues.
yeah.
Whether or not this will become viable, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it requires a major investment from an outside source, and maybe Maverick Carter knows something that we don't know in regards to it. But it's just kind of interesting when his most famous client has repeatedly said that he wants to own an NBA team, and I don't know if it's going to be a conflict of interest or anything like that down the road, but yeah,
Well,
it seems interesting how one member of the team is going one way and the other member of the team may be going another.
yeah. Well, if we're starting to talk about conflicts of interest, we might want to look at some of the players that are managed by these blokes, who is LeBron James' best friend. So,
What?
there's an issue there with the way the league was being discussed, and people have maybe seen that there's an opportunity to do something different. And it's not dissimilar to what's happened recently in the last few years in European football, where European football they tried to do a breakaway league, with some of the biggest teams in Europe: Barca, Real Madrid, Manchester
I saw
United.
that.
Yeah, and it was a big thing, and because there's still a lot of fan involvement with clubs, like, even for example, Barcelona is owned by the fans. Man, they came out and protested. They refused to go to games, so it got turned away. But there's always a risk when you're taking your product a little bit for granted that someone's going to come along and try to do something different. But for me, I just don't see it happening. The way the NBA is set up, the strength of the NBA, the way that it absorbs you through 82 games, the history of the league, you can never say never, and you can never, rest on your laurels. But it's a very strong league, Gerald. And I know that some of the ratings in America haven't been strong, but I'm talking from an Australian perspective, and also having Spanish heritage. And you know yourself, Gerald, with your exposure to places like the Philippines. I've got a lot of exposure to Asian countries, and obviously Asian people in Australia. This game, man, is loved. Man, it is big time. It's the second biggest sport in the world to football. It wasn't always that way, but it's got itself there. You guys might not always see that in the American ratings, and how the American media might feel about the product, but I'm telling you now, it's never been bigger worldwide. That's why they get these numbers when you put your rights up and you get $80 billion for the league, and everyone's saying, what the hell's going wrong? Adam Silver's the worst commissioner in the world. And he might be, you might not like his moral ethics, or he might be woke, or whatever it is that you don't like about the guy. I'm telling you now, from a worldwide perspective, basketball has not been stronger. You see that in things like the Olympics, where there's way more competitive teams. Yeah, America's always going to be favorite, and the dream team typically is going to win it. But man, they were seconds away from losing to Serbia. So, like, that, like, the world, I'm not saying about the world catching up or anything. I just, the game is loved around the world like it never has been, and I think people need to focus on that as well, and not always talk about the fact that it might be not doing as well as, say, the NFL is at the moment. The NFL doesn't rate anywhere other than USA, so you can look at it both ways. The product's strong as, man. And for me, yeah, I don't like all the threes that get jacked up as well. But when you go back and you watch games in the early 2000s, some, like, you would have a roster of 10, 12 players. Three or four of those players couldn't even shoot, man. They were all Ben Simmons type players. So it's like the league's skill overall has gotten better. It might not seem that way because they have to shoot threes, but there's a lot of good athletes in the league, and you see it on any given night, Gerald. You let someone else stand. You watch a Brooklyn, right? And you go to Cam Thomas, man. Why don't you be the elite player tonight? And the guy goes and drops 40. You got dudes like Quincy Oliveira dropping 50 in G League and getting cut from teams. Now, maybe he shouldn't have been cut in favor of Bronny, but Bronny's bringing in the jerseys. So whatever happens, like, there's a lot of good players around the league that don't get the opportunity. There's also players that play in the league. I think it was I was watching a documentary, and sorry, it cut me off at any time. But say
You're all
Nico
good.
Mericic, the dude that got knocked out by Bobby Portis for New
Yes.
Orleans. Yeah, and he actually Mericic. For whatever reason, he's not from Spain, but he's a Spanish citizen, and he plays for Spain, and is actually a Spanish basketball legend. And he said the reason he didn't need to, he had offers the same level from Utah, from other team. When he left New Orleans, he told New Orleans it's either me or Bobby, and they chose Bobby, even though Bobby knocked him out. And look, Bobby, he's a decent player too, but they chose Bobby, and Meritic had offers, but he chose to go back to Barcelona because he said, I can't play the way I want in the league. He wasn't the number one option. He was the guy standing, but then he goes to Barcelona, and 2 years later, he wins Euro League MVP. I'm not saying like he could have done that but there's guys that are really good players that don't get the opportunity to shine in the NBA because there's other players in front of them. Like, the league is strong, man. We've seen it. Like Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Walker, he's not even in the league anymore. 2 years ago, the guy won us a playoff game against Golden State on his own, and the guy was still okay in Denver. So I don't think the product is that bad. Personally, I absolutely love the NBA. I've never been in more in love with it. So, I just want to stick up for it a little bit, the product overall. And that's my take on, why people are sort of thinking there's an opportunity to come in with $5 billion and do another league. Because when you get that negative talk and people start thinking negatively, or in a sort of, a mindset where, um, i- like a sheepish type mindset where you only follow what other people are saying in the media and blah, blah, blah. He's thinking he can ride it, man. But I don't see it. Like, I'm not interested. You can bring out that league, Maverick. I'm not keen, bro. I'm going for the Lakers, mate. You get the Lakers there somehow, yeah, we will all be there, but it's not happening. And, spend your money. You got more money to burn. But yeah, I love the NBA, and I just want to stick up for the NBA.
Well said, my friend. Once again, it is Mark, aka Xbox. If you want to hear his latest thoughts or read his latest thoughts on some Australian basketball players, first place you'll get the look at it is being a member today for just $2.99. I'll make it available to the public here in the not too distant future, but it's already available right now if you're a member of the Lakers Fast Break. But Mark, it's been great having you on. I know tomorrow's game against Brooklyn, I just want a stress-free game where the Lakers just go out, set the tone early, get it over early. We've seen other teams this week beat up on Brooklyn because they're in full tank mode. They're not playing half their, Cam Johnson or D'Angelo half the time. It'd be nice if we could just get an easy win for once for this Laker team.
Kurt, I might expand. My next article is on Giddy, Kurt. So become a member so you can read that, and then we'll start getting into the fun stuff about Australian beaches. But for me, like the thing I didn't mention before, nephew goes for Warriors. The other nephew goes for the Lakers, but their father, my brother, goes for Brooklyn. So he's completely lost in space right now. For some reason, I think when we were playing NBA Jam in the 90s, he used to love Derek Coleman. And apparently that's, made him a lifelong Brooklyn fan. I've tried to get him across, but he's not interested. And you can suck it and suffer. But tomorrow, hopefully, if you're watching, Adrian, unlucky, bro. But look, Brooklyn, mate, Gerald, can you imagine the reactions if we lose to Brooklyn on playback and then post game? You'll probably have
Oh,
1,000 people in the post game stream if we lose. So that might be a
I will
positive.
flip out to lose to a team that just lost by 60. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
Yeah,
just
no, not happening. And geez, I mean, the Clippers put on a show tonight as well. I have to check the end score, but they might have won their last two games by 100 odd points. So whatever they're doing's, well, they're playing shit teams, so they should do that.
yeah, that's part of the reason why. I know that Kawhi came back for the Brooklyn game, but didn't play tonight. But yeah, they're
Gotcha.
playing well as well. Yeah. Before we
Yeah, but no,
go, who's
Brooklyn's
your
tanking.
favorite? Who is your
Yeah, I saw
favorite
that.
Australian born basketball player?
Well, guys, have you been here? How long have you been here? It's my boy Josh. Of the current players anyway, man, I absolutely love Josh Giddey. I just like people might not like him, but I just love the uniqueness, and I love players that are able to get the lines that he gets with the triple doubles. He has petered off. Let's be honest. I'm going to be brutally honest about Josh, and if you're watching, bro, g'day, but he has tailed off a little bit from those early couple of seasons in OKC, where I've said to a few people now, if you actually go look at the stats that he had as a rookie and the second year, it's actually not dissimilar to like a Luka Doncic. Like he hasn't developed that like Luka, but the guy can play. And you know what we love the most about Josh, Gerald, is when he puts on the Australian jersey and he becomes a different player. He elevates like Patty Mills always did. And Patty Mills has been mentioned in the chat. Luke Longley, Andrew Bogut, Shane Hill, Andrew Gaze. We can go through them all. But of the current crop, Giddy is a really, really special player that just offers something different and unique. And when he plays for Australia, it's unreal to watch. And we needed someone to carry what Patty Mills did for so many years for us, being a small nation, but playing above our weight. But yeah, Eric, that's a great point. Giddy's jump shot, it's poor, but you know what? At least he tries to shoot, and that's been the frustration. And if you guys become members and behind the paywall, see my article about Ben Simmons. I said it, Gerald. Ben Simmons, when he came into the league, I'd never seen anything like it. The amount of coverage we'd get in Australia about Ben was insane. Uh, just going to quickly finish my point about Ben. But yeah, the inability to want to shoot and obviously the mental state that he got in, it hasn't worked out. So Like I said in my article, we still love Ben and we hope he comes good, but we have moved on to other players like Josh and Dyson Daniels. Can we just quickly go on to about that point, Kurt? I don't know where we go with that. I might not touch on it actually, but
Yeah. But
Giddy,
you're
look,
not, again, you're not the
he,
only one that's thinking at 8:05 as Kurt and I
but
went to.
yeah, having said that, you know what, man, he also bounced back from that. Okay, like guys, you gotta, you might believe in the justice system or not. You know, he was never prosecuted and nothing came of it. So he copped a lot, man, during that time. And I'm sure there's other players where maybe similar things have happened and it wasn't reported. People also said he was favorably looked upon during that time. You know, if you just break it down, Gerald, he was also a very young man. So I'm not sticking up for any of that stuff, guys, but let's move on. Yeah, Ben Simmons is Australian, JY. It's hard to believe because he does have an American accent, but his father was from America. His mum is from Australia, and he's born
It would
in
just be
Australia.
so more. It'd be so helpful if his shot was hovering around 40%
Oh,
from.
well,
It
Giddy and
just
Ben. Oh,
yeah.
like honestly, Gerald, you look at it. If Ben could shoot, you remember Ben early days, like when he won Rookie of the Year and he was an All Star. How can you be an All Star without shooting? Like you must be pretty good. He did everything at an absolute elite level, but then the mental demons got him, and it's been a shame. It's been a real shame. You know, this guy was talked about, you know, on the same levels as, you know, a Zion in terms of when he was coming into the league. Zion was probably just that next level, but Ben was huge, Gerald. You would have known it being, you know, when he went to LSU and all that. Man, they were covering his games like they covered LeBron's in high school and that. He was really, really touted. So, yeah, and the other thing, just quickly on that, Gerald, he's never played for Australia. Bro, I mean,
That's a shame.
that is Oh, it breaks my heart, man. Like the Olympics, he could have gone there. He could have proven something. He could have been an asset. It's hard to understand why he's never played for Australia, but he's promised he will, and blah blah blah. And it still might happen, but that's been one thing that Australians don't like, that, Gerald. You know, we're
Uh,
as patriotic as yourselves, and when you sort of turn your back on the country, it's hard to take. So yeah, shout out to Ali, who's just joined as well. Great to see Ali, man.
but we're heading on out because we got a lot of work to do for tomorrow, and
Yep.
that is, of course, for the game against Brooklyn. It'll be on here for playback.tv. So that's Lakers Fast Break. Besides, if we stay on any longer, we're going to get probably in a little bit of trouble here, more than we are when we started on the Josh Giddey conversation, because yeah, it has nowhere to go but down as far as the conversation is
Yeah, my
concerned.
bad.
No, not your bad. It's our chat's bad. Of
Is that the
course,
great
I
man
was actually
Joey having a bit of
well, I was
a
actually,
play?
Mark, I was actually kind of thinking that as well. So yeah, that's,
Yeah, we're all on the same page with it. But no,
yeah.
good luck to Josh.
Good luck to Josh, indeed. Find a jump shot. There you go. But
Yeah,
man,
quickly.
he can't pass, he can't distribute, and hopefully that'll lead to better things for him as the Chicago Bulls point guard. But again, it is, of course, Mark. If you want to find out more about the Australian thoughts of basketball players that emanate from their country, he has already started on that process with an article that you need to read if you're a member for just $2.99 a month. You can check it out right now. But current affairs says nowhere to go but down is also how. Okay. See, Kurt. My
You need to read
gosh.
Kurt's comments before you say them out loud, just in case.
Yes, yes. And one more. Shut up, Joe. I will leave it at that. But once again, it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you joining us. Mark, any last thoughts, my friend, before we head on out?
No, look, no, Ali, Josh is not in trouble again. Uh, He's all good. He's in trouble in the fact that he's in the Bulls and they're not winning. But no last thoughts in terms of anything in particular. I just want to say shout out to the chat. Really great stuff. Great engagement. Shout out to Joey. Shout out to the boys, the playback boys. And yeah, man, like obviously it's a I wouldn't say it's a big game tomorrow, Gerald. It's a game that we got to rock up. We got to play well. Hopefully, like you said, first or second quarters we can get a lead. Maybe we can rest LeBron and AD and some of the other starters in the fourth quarter. That's got to be the goal for tomorrow. Is to get ourselves to that place, get the boys, get a lead, get a win where it's comfortable, not be chasing like we're always chasing or tight, and move forward, to the next game. Brooklyn are easy beats, guys. So, I hope it's what we all expect, a nice and easy win. And I can chill out on my Saturday night feeling good about the Lakers for once. So, yeah, no last thoughts. Can't wait for tomorrow's game. And always good to beat my brother. So let's hope we beat the Nets, or else there's going to be issues all around. There's going to be massive blow-ups in Australia, and LA's had some pretty bad times of recent, but they don't want to lose to Brooklyn. They do not want to lose to Brooklyn.
And there's no excuses. So we'll see, hopefully, a easy victory for the Lakers tomorrow. And with Xbox being a great part of it, hopefully you'll join us. Playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. And of course, right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. So for Mark, aka Xbox, and Joe Sorrell, who was here earlier, who is still spouting off in the chat as only he can. This is, of course, me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate you joining us. Looking forward to the Lakers continuing a new winning streak, getting back up in the Western Conference standings. This chat, I'm telling you, this chat.
He might have been dropped on his head or something, Kurt. I'm not too sure. There's obviously issues with my brother, but I do love him. But yeah, the Nets thing, it's not cool.
And with that, we'll just leave it as far as the family affair is concerned. Go ahead and hear more of this fun stuff tomorrow. Brooklyn, the Lakers, and then, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. We'll go ahead and make sure that we have it for you as far as the post game lined up for you. Everything that we do for you during game time right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast.